Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray. Appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel here. Joining me on the program today, of course, you can find him co-hosting the All-City, All-NBA podcast with this guy, Adam Mars, and, of course, ESPN NBA analyst in studio and game analyst as well. He is, of course, Tim Legler. Tim, what's going on?
What's happening? How are you? I know a little bit of a downer right now for Dallas, huh? What happened to Luka? I get it.
Yeah, even in the midst of winning 14 of their last 18 games, the story, of course, is what happened on Christmas Day. Luka Dončić straining his left calf, and he will be out for at least the next month with that injury. Of course, Dončić helping the Mavericks to what has been a terrific last 18 games for them. Of course, averaging over 28 points per game. Also second in the league in steals at over 2 steals per game. But, Tim, let's just start there. A perennial MVP candidate has been first-team All-NBA each of the last 5 years. That will not necessarily be the case this year because he won't play enough games to qualify based off of the amount of time that we believe he's going to miss. So with Dončić being out for this extended period of time, how do the Mavericks, in your mind, move forward without him, knowing the kind of difficult stretch of games that they got coming up as well?
It's tough. I mean, it's not like you're going to go at anybody that's going to come close to, replicating what he can do. It is what it is. Like you do have another superstar offensive player, and Kyrie was sensational on Christmas Day. He's been sensational all year. So he's clearly going to have to become now more of the focal point, and he's going to have to dial it up. He's going to have a lot of games while Luka's out, like he played on Christmas, to give them a chance. The problem they're going to have, it's not Kyrie doing his thing. It's who's creating the offense for the other guys on this team, because that's the way the roster was built. Luka makes the game very easy for Derek Lively and P.J. Washington and Klay Thompson and Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber, right? Luka's the guy that takes all that onto his plate, pulls multiple defenders over to him at all times, makes the game very easy for you. You have one thing to do, and that's finish the play once he gives you the ball. You take that out of your offense, and it's going to be a much bigger challenge. They don't have offense creators on this team outside of Kyrie. Jaden Hardy a little bit, if he's able to play and they're going to go in that direction, because when you look up and down the roster, that's just not who these guys are. That's going to be the biggest challenge. Even on Christmas Day, they had 15 assists as a team. Right, that's an anemic number in the NBA, particularly as many catch and shoot threes that are taken. They had 15 assists because the playmaking was taken off the court. And so that's going to be the biggest challenge. Kyrie, you have no doubt in my mind, can elevate his game as he needs to. How do you create the offense and the easy shots for the role players on this team? That's going to be their biggest challenge.
Kyrie Irving this year in 27 games, averaging 24 points per game, shooting 35 minutes per game, shooting over 49% from the field. He has had a terrific offensive season for this team so far. And you started to mention it, him being at 32 years of age in his 14th season, what other guys are going to come with him, because Kyrie's going to shoulder a lot of the load here. When you start looking at guys like P.J. Washington, Naji Marshall, Derek Lively, and others, who in your mind has to step up alongside Kyrie Irving to be able to kind of hold things together while Luka Dončić is away with the injury right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it clearly falls on Naji Marshall and P.J. Washington's hands, I think, more than anybody else. I just think they at least do have a little bit more capability, like if they have to put the ball on the floor and get something for themselves. I mean, for the most part, Lively and Gafford are rim run lob threats. Lively's extended his game a little bit in the post, but you're not going to all of a sudden give him the ball 8 times in the post and expect great results. That's just not what he does. So those two guys, more limited. Klay, if this was 5 years ago, say, hey, Klay Thompson can get his own in the mid-range and get his shot off at 6'7" with that little lean back he's got and create some offense for himself. But that's not this Klay. This Klay is more dependent upon, being set up to do what he does. So I don't know that it can come there. Like I said, Jaden Hardy's a really talented offensive player. He's had moments over the last couple of years where he's in and out of the rotation, and he'll play and like be real splashy, and then he'll struggle a little bit, and then you won't see him for a while. Like that's kind of been his MO here for the last couple of years. So I don't know if he's an option, but I do think he's got some offensive capability, at least to be a little bit more explosive. But you are what you are as an NBA player, man. And, if they had a young guard that they just drafted that's can get his own shot that's like hasn't been playing. You go, okay, well, this guy's going to eventually be that. That's not who these guys are, and they're not going to become that. So I think it's going to be a challenge for them. And look, their schedule is a tough stretch. They go to Phoenix, at Portland, which that's a bottom feeder, but it's still a road game. At Sac, really struggling, but again, a road game. At Houston, very tough game. Cleveland at home. Memphis on the road. Lakers at home. Like, that's a very tough stretch right off the bat. And they're talking about not even looking at Luka again until the end of January. So be interesting to see how far they slide and what the teams that are right behind them right now are able to do in the meantime to leapfrog them. This is going to be a very tough stretch for them. And seeding is going to be something we're going to be looking at with them as this goes on and the longer Luka's out.
Mavericks are 6-2 this season without Luka Dončić and been able to play well in his absence at times, but at the same time, a long stretch that they're going to have to deal with. And Tim, this is a team in the Mavericks that's arguably the deepest that it's been in the Luka era, and with guys like Quentin Grimes and others being added to this team, we talked about with Kyrie Irving, the offensive load he's going to have to shoulder. When you look at the overall identity of this team, a team that's number 3 in offensive rating, number 11 in defensive rating over the last 18 games with the third best mark during that 18-game span, what's going to be the identity of this Mavericks team without Luka Dončić in the path to victory based off of the difficult schedule that they're going to be facing with, especially at the beginning of January?
Well, look, one thing that you can potentially improve upon with Luka not on the floor, you can improve defensively as a team. I mean, Luka, it has to have certain matchups to be effective defensively. He's been criticized and maligned a lot throughout his career for his defense. But he's so good offensively. Most nights that makes up for it. It overcomes that because he's arguably the most dominant offensive force in the league. So their defense may be what their calling card's going to have to be here for this stretch of games without Luka, because I think there is the capability to do that. Give yourself a chance with your defense every night and keep yourself in the game. And then if you can do that, you still have one of the best offensive players in the league and one of the best closing players in the league on your side if you can be within striking distance with 5 minutes to go. And I think that their defense has to be their calling card right now while Luka's out.
And when you look at this team and what they've got to try to achieve over the next month or so without Luka Dončić, for you, what do you hope to learn about this Mavericks team without Luka, who will be arguably in the longest stretch of his career without playing games, given what he's had to deal with during the regular season? What do you hope to learn about this team given this stretch without Luka here?
To be honest with you, I think you're going to find out more over the next month without him, at least a month, and about them in terms of how much of a contender they truly are. I mean, if they're able to play above 500 or right around 500 during this stretch without him, and you see some of these guys pick things up offensively in unforeseen circumstances like this on the fly, go be better than you've been. If they're able to do that and they're able to win their share of games, like I said, maybe even at a 500 clip while Luka's out, that's going to tell you more about them as contenders and make you realize, hey, man, they're in a really good place because what they were able to do while he was out, they can galvanize a team. And you learn a lot about yourself when you face adversity. So let's see what they're made of here over the next, however long it's going to be, 4 to 6 weeks, most likely at least.
Last thing before we get you out of here, obviously no team wants to lose their superstar. This is a superstar-driven league with these teams, especially at the top of the league. From your experience and what you've watched and covered the league throughout the years, how have the best teams been able to absorb the loss of their superstar to be able to continue to move forward and then eventually find themselves getting back on track once that superstar comes back?
Tough, man. I think listen, the bottom line is this, as an NBA player, former NBA player, I went through stretches where our best players were out. And so when you go to the arena and you know that as a role player, you have to put yourself in a more aggressive mindset and you have to understand there's going to be more opportunities that they're coming your way than are normally. Where it's hard to pick your spots as a role player sometimes and be effective knowing the shots might be spaced out. You don't know exactly when the shots are coming because you're not one of the top 2 or 3 guys getting the ball every time up the floor. Now that's different. Now you do touch the ball more. You do have more opportunities. You have more freedom to do things off the dribble or earlier in the clock or shots that maybe you wouldn't have taken if those guys were on the floor. You can take those shots now. So you just have to get yourself into a mental state of almost like you dial it back to think of what was like the most usage you ever had in your life as a basketball player, and take yourself back to that place again, because that's what it's going to feel like for some of the role players. There's going to be shots afforded to them that weren't before, and you've got to be ready to step up and capitalize on those and be prepared for it. So and like I said, it can really galvanize a team if you're able to win games without your star players. It's amazing what that could do for morale and overall confidence, knowing what you could do without them, how much better you are when they get back.
Jason Kidd always preaches the next man up mentality. That's going to be tested for this Mavericks team as they get ready to play 5 of their next 6 games on the road, and they'll have to do so, obviously, without their superstar and Luka Dončić. You can catch him every day with this guy, Adam Mares, on the All-NBA podcast, part of the All-City Network, and, of course, in studio and covering and analyzing games for ESPN. He, of course, is our teammate here at All-City Network, Tim Legler. Tim, as always, my man, good to see you. Appreciate the time. I look forward to the next conversation, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
We all silly like the mayor.